Have you ever wondered what you should do if you suddenly had $1,000 to invest? For many beginners, that question feels overwhelming. Should you put it into the stock market, buy crypto, start a small business, or maybe just let it sit in savings? The truth is, how you invest $1,000 today can set the tone for your entire financial future. And while the amount may seem small compared to the millions you hear about on the news, the habits you build with that first $1,000 are what eventually create long-term wealth. So in this video, I'll walk you through exactly how I would invest $1,000 right now. I'll break it down into clear steps, explain why each one matters, and give you simple strategies you can actually use. By the end, you'll have a roadmap that balances safety, growth, and opportunity without unnecessary complexity. The first thing I would do with $1,000 is build a safety cushion. Before investing in stocks, funds, or any high-return opportunities, the number one priority is financial stability. If you don't have at least a small emergency fund, your investments won't last long. Imagine you put the entire $1,000 into the stock market, and then your car breaks down next week. You'll be forced to sell your investments at the wrong time just to cover that expense. That's why the first $100 to $200 should go into a savings account or even a digital wallet as cash you don't touch. It's not glamorous, but it gives you breathing room so your actual investments can grow undisturbed. Even a small safety cushion creates psychological peace, allowing you to make rational decisions rather than panicking when unexpected costs arise. The second step is tackling high-interest debt if you have it. This might sound unrelated to investing, but in reality, it's one of the best investments you can make. If you're paying 18 or 20% on credit cards, no stock or crypto can consistently beat that return. So if you have debt with double-digit interest rates, I'd put another $200 to $300 toward paying it down before thinking about anything else. It's guaranteed growth because every dollar you use to reduce that debt is a dollar that stops draining your future wealth. Even paying down a small portion of debt early can save you hundreds of dollars in interest over time, which is like getting an immediate return on your money. Now, let's assume you've set aside a safety cushion and cleared or reduced expensive debt. That leaves us with the bulk of the $1,000 ready to actually invest. The third step is getting exposure to the broad stock market. I would put around $400 to $500 into a low-cost index fund or ETF that tracks something like the S&P 500. This instantly gives you diversification across hundreds of strong companies instead of betting on a single stock. Over time, the US stock market has returned around 7 to 10% annually after inflation. That means your money doubles roughly every 7 to 10 years if you stay invested. It's not flashy, but it's consistent and proven, which is exactly what you want with your first serious investment. For example, if you invested $500 into an S&P 500 index fund today and let it grow for 20 years with an average annual return of 8%, that $500 could grow to over $2,000 without you ever adding another dollar. This demonstrates the power of time and compounding, which is the true engine of wealth creation. The fourth step is adding a little exposure to international markets. Too many beginners focus only on US companies, but growth is happening all over the world. Putting $100 to $200 into a global ETF or an emerging markets fund spreads your risk and lets you benefit from economies outside the United States. Think of it this way. While the US is powerful, countries like India, Brazil, Peru, and parts of Southeast Asia are seeing massive middle-class growth. Having even a small slice of that growth in your portfolio adds resilience and long-term upside. For instance, during the last decade, countries like China and India had annual growth rates exceeding 6%. This translated into significant gains for investors holding international funds. By diversifying globally, you're not only spreading risk, but also opening your portfolio to opportunities that domestic markets alone can't provide. The fifth step is exploring alternative investments with a small percentage. I wouldn't put more than $100 to $200 into this category, but it's worth considering. This could be crypto, REITs for real estate exposure, or even fractional shares of companies you personally believe in. The key is to treat this as your growth experiment fund. It's not about gambling, but about carefully testing new opportunities with money you can afford to risk. If crypto booms again, your small stake could multiply. If it doesn't, you've only risked a small portion, while the bulk of your money is safe in diversified funds. You can also consider micro-investing platforms that allow fractional ownership of real estate or companies, which means you get exposure to high-value assets without needing thousands of dollars up front. The sixth step is reinvesting consistently. Investing $1,000 once is good, but the real wealth comes from adding to it month after month. If you can commit to investing an extra $50 or $100 regularly, that initial $1,000 grows much faster. It's the power of compounding combined with discipline. For example, investing $100 a month into index funds could grow into hundreds of thousands over a few decades. Even small, consistent contributions matter far more than occasional large deposits. The wealthy don't get rich from single windfalls. They get rich by adding consistently and letting time do the heavy lifting. The seventh step is investing in yourself. If I had $1,000 today, I wouldn't put every cent into markets. I'd reserve at least $50 to $100 for books, courses, or skills that make me more valuable. Why? Because the highest return you'll ever earn isn't from stocks or crypto, it's from increasing your own earning power. If a course helps you land a higher-paying job or start a small side hustle, the return could be 10 or 20 times that initial cost. And unlike markets, nobody can take away your knowledge or skills. For instance, learning a skill like coding, digital marketing, or investing itself can generate ongoing income far beyond what you initially invested. This is why some of the smartest investors treat education as a critical part of their portfolio. The eighth step is creating a system. $1,000 invested without a plan is just a one-time event. But if you create a system like setting up automatic transfers into an investment account, you remove emotion and inconsistency. That's what separates successful investors from those who quit after a few months. If you automate the process, you'll invest through highs and lows without second-guessing yourself. And over time, that discipline pays off far more than chasing the next hot stock or trend. For example, you could schedule $50 every 2 weeks to go directly into a diversified fund. By the end of the year, you'd have added $1,300 on top of your initial $1,000 and done it without ever thinking about timing the market. So, if I had $1,000 today, here's exactly what I'd do. I'd keep $100 to $200 in cash as a safety cushion. I'd put $200 to $300 toward high-interest debt if I had any. I'd invest $400 to $500 into a low-cost index fund, $100 to $200 into international exposure, and $100 to $200 into alternatives like crypto or REITs. I'd commit to reinvesting regularly, spend a small amount on self-education, and set up a system to automate the process. It's simple, it's balanced, and most importantly, it sets you up not just for this $1,000, but for every dollar you invest afterward. The real power comes from starting, learning, and building the habit of disciplined investing. This approach isn't flashy, but it's reliable, repeatable, and backed by decades of historical data. Even small, smart steps today can grow into substantial wealth over time. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to Property and Profit. Here, we break down investing and wealth building in a way that's clear, professional, and easy for beginners to follow. And if you're ready to start your own investing journey, drop a comment below on how you'd invest $1,000 today. Love to hear your strategy. Remember, it's not about how much you start with, it's about starting smart, staying consistent, and letting your money work for you over time.